What's going on YouTube? It's the Bowtie Fragrance Guy on the channel where we talk about fragrances and fashion. So if you love looking good and smelling great, why don't you consider hitting the subscribe button, and also make sure you hit the bell icon as well to ensure you get notified when I upload new content on the channel. So guys, as I just mentioned, we talk about fragrances as well as fashion. So a quick tip for you today on the fashion side of things is, if you look at this suit that I am wearing today, this suit is made of flannel. So when it starts to get cold outside, when the temperatures start to cool down, you want to look at wearing a little bit heavier fabrics. Things like, again, heavier wools, things like flannel, tweeds, things of that nature. Start to look to some of those fabrics because they are heavier and they help to keep you warm when it's cold outside. I have several flannel suits. I got this one, of course, from Spear & McKay. It's in a nice dark chocolate brown. Looks really good. With a nice pair of suede shoes as well. You know, again, just a quick style tip for you as we move and transition into the colder months of the year. Now guys, on today's video, we're going to be talking about 10 out of 10 niche fragrances that I have in my collection. Now, I already dropped the designer video a couple days ago, so if you missed that, make sure you check it out. This will be the second installment of this particular video where I talk about 10 fragrances in my collection that are niche, that I consider to be perfect 10 out of 10 fragrances. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you want to see what made the list, you know how we do, you know how we get down. Keep it locked right here. All right, guys, we're back. Thank you so much for keeping it locked in. Let's go ahead and jump right into this list. Well, really quick before I do that, guys, if you have not gotten your hands yet on my two fragrances, Aubade and Serenade from Naxos, make sure you do that because those two fragrances are really great for cooler temperatures as well. So if you had not had a chance to pick them up, make sure you go ahead and do that. Now let's go ahead and jump into the first fragrance on this list today. From the house of Allure, this is the masterfully done Jubilation 25. I always say this when I talk about Jubilation 25, but there are so many notes that are listed in this fragrance. Just to name a few, you have a nice honey in this, you have some cinnamon, you have some opopanax in here, some oud. Cloves is something that I get a lot of in this fragrance as well. Again, there's a lot of notes, but they are blended perfectly. This is a very unique scent, a very complex scent, but it smells phenomenal. I like to wear this fragrance when I celebratory type situations. Again, I like to say this is like my New Year's Eve or New Year's Day fragrance, celebrating going into a new year. Things of that nature, job promotions, etc. I like to wear this fragrance. It's just really, really good, well done. Checks all the boxes, smells great, it's original. The scent DNA is very unique. And it performs like a monster, a beast mode for sure. So a 10 out of 10 for sure. This is an easy one from the house of Allure. Again, this one is Jubilation 25. I say this, make sure guys, go to scentsplit.com. I know niche fragrances are more expensive, but if you see anything on this list that you like, make sure you go to scentsplit.com and check these fragrances out, because all of these fragrances, I think maybe with the exception of one, is available over at ScentSplit. Go ahead, get a sample of maybe 5 or 10 mil that can last you for a while, especially if you have a lot of fragrances in your collection. So that should be enough for you to really sample it for yourself to see if you agree with me that these are 10 out of 10 fragrances. But man, listen, this fragrance, I talked about Angel Share from Kilian being one of the best fragrances I've ever smelled. That would be of the more warmer, sweeter, more gourmand kind of variety. This is one of the best fragrances I've ever smelled that are more of that clean and fresh variety. This fragrance comes from the house of Fragrance Du Bois, and this thing smells absolutely heavenly. This one is called Heritage. This is called Heritage, and guys, there's a little bit of a powdery vibe that you get with this one from Orris Root. It's very floral. It has some jasmine in here, but one of the star players to me is really the aldehydes, man. I told you, aldehydes give this really clean freshness to fragrances, and this one is just done to perfection. This thing smells heavenly. If you like a fresh, clean fragrance, a little bit floral. Guys, you can't go wrong with this. I promise you. Put your nose on this, you'll see what I'm saying. You have to smell it to believe it. Again, this one comes from the house of Fragrance Du Bois. Perfect 10 out of 10. This one is called Heritage. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list, I've talked about it a lot on this channel, so let's just get into it. From Nichane, this is Hachibot. This is Hachibot, and man, oak moss, patchouli. You have the pineapple in here as well. It smells absolutely wonderful, this fragrance. And of course, I told you guys when I first wore this fragrance and I sprayed it on my hand, I was so impressed because it's an extrait de parfum. So the oil stayed on my hand for about an hour, no lie. It was very visible, heavily concentrated, checks all the boxes, smells great, performs great, an amazing scent from Nichane. Definitely worthy, without a doubt, of a 10 out of 10 in my book. So check out Hachibot from Nichane. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list, perfect 10 out of 10. These fragrance from the house of Creed. This is called Creed Spice and Wood. Creed Spice and Woods. And just like the name indicates, this fragrance opens up very nice. There's a nice fruity opening. You have some bergamot in this, some green apple in the opening of this as well. And then, of course, the spices come in. I think there's some cloves in this, some pepper, so it starts to get, of course, very spicy. And then, of course, the woods come in, cedar wood. In this, you got some angelica, you got some birch in this, kind of give that smoky, woody thing as it dries down. Wonderful fragrance. This thing smells absolutely divine, especially in the fall season. So, again, definitely in my opinion, this deserves a 10 out of 10. One of Creed's best, in addition to some other great ones that they have, of course. But man, check this one out from the house of Creed, man. This is definitely a 10 out of 10. This is called Spice and Wood. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list, this fragrance comes from the house of Rosie Dove, and this stuff is just, this stuff is really good from Rosie Dove. This is called Burlington 1819. And I really don't know how to describe this fragrance, but it's just good. I don't know what this is in here. It's just kind of smoky and woody. So you got this smoky, woody vibe. It's a little bit boozy as well. There's some rum in here, some ginger. You have this beautiful melange of citrus notes in the opening, orange and lime, grapefruit. Stuff is just good. This is just good, man. This stuff, guys, you gotta check this out. When it starts to dry down, man, once that you get to the mid up and you get that the rum in here, you got some of my favorite notes as it really gets into the far dry down of this fragrance. You have some tobacco, some cinnamon, some benzoin. This stuff is just, it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. 10 out of 10 easy in my book from Rosie Dove, man. You got to put your nose on this, man. If you like a nice, unique, masculine, spicy fragrance, you got to check this out, man. This is called 1819. Burlington 1819. All right, guys, the next fragrance on my list, this fragrance got me, helped me to fall in love with the note of tobacco. That's the note I really like in fragrances, and this one is one of the best to ever do it from Parfums de Marly. It's this one right here, is Harrod. And in addition to, of course, the tobacco, you have cinnamon, isoe, super, and vanilla are some of the main notes to me, and it just smells great. It smells great, it performs great. And again, if you like a nice tobacco, cinnamon kind of fragrance, and this is one you got to put your nose on. Easily a 10 out of 10 from Parfums de Marly. This is called Harrod. All right, guys, the next fragrance on my list, I've talked a lot about this fragrance. I just mentioned it actually a few moments ago when I said one of the best fragrances I've ever smelled from Kilian. This is Angel Share. I've used a lot of this for good reason. I'm trying to slow down on it a little bit, but it just smells great. It smells like a like a gingerbread cookie or something like that. That's what I think about when I smell this fragrance. It's really sweet. It has that praline in there. It gives it that kind of cookie kind of sweetness. Cinnamon, of course. There's some vanilla in this as well, I think. Oh man, and the cognac in here, that booziness that comes from cognac. Check it out, guys. Easily, if you like gourmand fragrances, 10 out of 10. I think you need to put your nose on it. Again, this one is called Angel Share. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list, I've talked about this fragrance a lot lately for good reason. From the house of Initio Parfums, this one is called Blessed Baraka. Blessed Baraka, but this thing is clean, it's spicy, and fresh at the same time. And it gives me just this right amount of this kind of nutty, almost gourmand sweetness that I generally like in fragrances. But again, it's got amber, it's got sandalwood, it's got musk in it. And man, it's just, again, it gives me just the amount of that kind of gourmand nuttiness that I look for in fragrances that generally draws me to a fragrance without being overly gourmand at all. I wouldn't definitely put this in a gourmand category, but it smells fantastic. There's something magnetic about this one that keeps pulling me back to it. I literally could do this all day with this one. This stuff is good, man. You guys need to put your nose on it, seriously, from Initio Profondo. This is one that is not talked about as much as some of the other ones, but it's as good as they are. So check out Blessed Baraka from Initio Profondo. All right, guys, the next fragrance on this list, one that needs no introduction, from the house of Frederic Malle. This one is called Musk Ravajor. Musk Ravajor, the warm Cinnabon fragrance. It made the list of perfect 10 out of 10. This thing has cloves in it, and the cloves turned some people off, but again, I have an older batch of this that was done in 2010, and this formulation, I think this one was done in 2017 that I have in my hand. They've kind of toned down the cloves in some of the later iterations of batches of this fragrance. And to me, it made it a little bit more wearable. So some people that may have been turned off if you smell a batch from years ago, which some people actually like the strong clove note, you may be able to handle it now. But for me, I love it. Both of them I really love. But when I'm in the mood for a little bit more toned down version of it with the cloves, I really like to pick up this one right here, man. But it's really good. Again, once you get into the far dry down of this fragrance, it really starts to smell like a warm Cinnabon. So the cinnamon here is amazing. Cinnamon, musk, of course, are two of the main notes and cloves of this masterpiece done by Maurice Roussel. And again, perfect 10 out of 10 in my book. So it's one that I'm always going to have around because I love this stuff. So check out Musk Ravajor. All right, guys, and last but not least on this list, definitely a fragrance that most of you know about and heard about, but if you've never smelled it, you need to put your nose on it because it's easily a 10 out of 10 fragrance from Xerjoff. This is called Naxos. This is called Naxos, and this has honey, cinnamon, lavender, which I'll come back to that in a moment, and tobacco. And a lot of people compare this to Pure Havana, but I always say this: the lavender makes a big difference in the 2 scent profile. This is a lot more cleaner, I would say, interpretation of a very similar DNA compared to Pure Havana. Both fragrances I love, by the way, don't get it twisted, but the lavender makes this fragrance really different. So it's not like they're clones of one another. It puts them in just a similar category. Stuff is amazing. It's a head turner. When people smell this on me, they ask questions about it, it starts conversations, all those good things. It's just an amazing fragrance. So check it out if you haven't. Thus far in your journey, put your nose on Naxos. I highly recommend it. Easily a 10 out of 10 in my book. Again, this is called Naxos. All right, guys, that's it. That's my time, man. I hope you enjoyed this video today as I gave you 10 perfect 10 out of 10 niche fragrances in my collection. As always, look, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your attention to these videos. Of course, you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you took a few moments to watch my videos, and I sincerely appreciate it. Now, guys, don't forget to make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share these videos out to some other folks that you think could use this information or maybe even find it entertaining, because I'm your guy, Darren, the Bowtie Fragrance Guy. I love to look good, and of course, I love to smell amazing. So until next time, guys, keep looking good, keep smelling even better. I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.